It's doubleheader Tuesdays here at Golden Days. Part 1 was Sophia Jones. I can't thank her enough for her contributions. The video is already posted and available. Same with the podcast. And now here's part 2. And part 2 is very special, at least for me, because my guest produced a documentary on Wardell Stephen Curry that now has over 1 million views and counting on YouTube. It's a phenomenally produced production. I was insanely lucky to be a part of it. We're going to talk about Steph today. We're going to talk about where he ranks among the all-time greats with Trice High, who knows his hoops, and he knows how to produce phenomenal content. So let's get into it. It's the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Let's go. In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
It is time to rock and roll. It is Tuesday. Tomorrow's midway point. We're getting there. Now. Welcome to the Golden Days. I am Cyrus Saatsaz, your host. You can follow me on Threads, on Instagram at Dog Wild, and over on that other platform, Twitter. You can follow me there as well at Surf Journalist. Before we get started, before I bring Trice High onto the program, got to give some love to our official sponsor, and that is Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Yep, football's back, folks. Whether it's the preseason in the NFL to college football kicking off, BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. If you think you know your stuff, get in on the winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. And when the game's over, head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. So head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE. It's the name of the network, BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. It is an absolute pleasure to bring on the program Trice High. The dude knows how to make phenomenal content, not just of documentaries, just hoops in general. His YouTube channel is at Trice Official. Trice, great to see you again, brother. How the hell are you doing, man?
Cyrus, what's going on, man? It's a pleasure as always. First time on the Golden Days podcast, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. That's right. Last time it was with the other show, and I switched networks. Same show, just a different name. Trice, dude, since the last time I had you on the show, this was not available. When I say this, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see what I'm talking about. If you're listening on the podcast, I am showing a website of a YouTube page with a documentary called Wardell Stephen Curry. This thing has over 1 million views. It only came out 9 months ago. First of all, congratulations on this, man. How has the feedback been? How's the reception been? Like, have you heard from Steph by any chance? I don't know if you have, but just tell us about the overall follow-up to the documentary being produced and released.
The feedback's been great. I mean, obviously, it's something that I was more than happy to be a part of and get to put together. I actually had another documentary about Steph that's just over 3 million views now that came out right after they won the finals in 2022. So it's not the first time that I've had something linked to him that has got that much attention. And every single time, it always blows me away just how much people appreciate him, appreciate what he's done for the game. And I always take these moments with these projects, especially centered around someone like Steph, who I admire so much, as just kind of a celebration of everything they've done, everything they've accomplished, and everything brought to the game. And it's been really cool to go through comments and hear feedback of people who were really inspired by the project. And of course, got to thank you and the other great contributors that gave great interviews and were able to make the story come to life. I could have done it without you.
Oh, I'm dude. No, this was all you, man. I thank you for inviting me to be a part of this project, but no, this was all you, brother. If you could have just replaced me in 2 seconds, and it still would have been like a phenomenal documentary. Did you? I'm sorry if you said this already. Please forgive me if I missed this. Did you get any feedback from Steph's camp? Like, have they said anything to you about this?
No, I haven't heard anything specifically from Steph himself, or anybody with the Golden State Warriors. But with something that's as extensive as this, I mean, it's quite literally almost 2 hours of Curry's career from start to finish. It's a massive project. Took about months and months to produce, to put together, to get together the interviews and things. So even though I wouldn't be surprised if Steph himself or someone from his camp at the very least have seen it, it wouldn't shock me, especially as we know how chronically online Steph is with looking
Oh.
up his name and things that people say about him. So if he did see it, I hope he enjoyed it. To me, it was kind of the ultimate tribute to someone who's really inspired me both as a player and as a creator.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. And again, you've got more specifically 1,043,520 views and counting. Wardell Stephen Curry, the documentary, is currently available. It's for free. You can literally, it's no cost to you at all. What is the best way to instruct people how to find it? Like, what's the best, what are the best words to type into the search so it'll just come up immediately as the first thing?
I mean, I really believe if you just type in Wardell Stephen Curry documentary, it should be the first thing that pops up. It's already kind of something that's there when you start typing out, it's there. So that it should be the first thing that comes up. And if not, you can just search my name, Trice, and usually my channel will pop right up, and you can it's on the homepage of my channel. So it's right there. It's easy to find. And if you have some time, you're obviously a fan of the Golden State Warriors, a fan of Steph Curry. I'm a little biased, but I think it's a must watch, man. That's one thing. I always try to produce content that I know I myself would enjoy. And I quite often find myself going back, sitting down, and before I know it, I've watched the whole hour and 45 minutes multiple times, just in reminiscing and enjoying just the journey that has been Steph's career and the things he's accomplished throughout it. It never gets old.
No, you're absolutely right, man. It does not get old. It's just a testament to how amazing of a human being he is, what he's contributed to this game, and just the world as a human being and a personality. When you were making this, and you mentioned this was an arduous process, probably incredibly time consuming. What are some of the things that you learned in this process that you did not know about Steph beforehand, if anything? Maybe there was nothing, but did anything stick out to you as you were making this? Sorry to put you on the spot,
so,
man.
No,
That's
you know what? That's a good question. I'm trying to think of like a specific story, maybe.
I mean, he's a pretty open book, so if not,
Yeah,
I
it
get it.
was a lot of stuff that I had known, but there was a few just mainly the way that other people felt. I think knowing that I shared so many experiences with other members of the Warriors media, people I interviewed, it was really cool to see how they had similar impact, how Steph had similarly impacted them, watching him play, just the way that we kind of had shared experiences in that regard. The most fun thing for me about making the project was just getting to relive a lot of those moments. I mean, it
Mhm.
was from the good and the bad. I mean, I'll never forget, obviously the lowest points, 2016, losing in the finals and stuff, seeing that, and that kind of almost getting to relive the whole journey of that happening again as I was working on the project. Like I was having to get real deep into that, and then seeing just the rise. And then obviously to me, 2022 was the pinnacle of, that's just in my mind the climax of Steph's career, as far as just the moment that made all the other ups and downs worth it. And so it was really cool to get to relive and go back through and all those things and kind of I think maybe if I didn't learn anything new, I got to re-experience things in a new, obviously as an old, in years later, get to re-experience them again and have a new appreciation for them. So I think that was probably my favorite part of making the project itself.
Dude, the project. It seems like it's the fruition of it has rewarded you greatly and rightfully so. And I love the fact that in a story, his career is basically straight out of a storybook more specifically. And without 2022, he still would have had the respect. His legacy, I think, still would have been fine. But there were those doubters. Like I saw this clip the other day. Someone posted, I think, on TikTok of all these different media members, like the Skip Baylesses of the world, saying he's overrated, and somebody had him ranked outside of like the top 20 all-time great players. And the 2022 title shut those folks up, right? In his storybook career, I feel like he had to pull off 2022, and it's just incredible that he did that. And so you make this documentary. And it's absolutely phenomenal. It's available on YouTube. Just search Wardell Stephen Curry, add the word documentary to the end of it, and it should pop right up. Trice High is the guest on the program today. Search him if for any reason you can't find it, or if you want to watch his other films. That's not the only movie you've made. But since you released the film, while last season was not exactly a storybook type season for Steph, the Olympics were. I mean, he captivated the world, and he made it so if you are not a Warriors fan and you've been on the wrong end of Stephen Curry's success for the first time in your life, maybe you are now on the right side of it. Maybe now you are actually understanding, gaining that perspective of what it's like to have Stephen Curry on a team you're rooting for. What does this do for you? Because the story is not over. Like, are you making another chapter? Are you just done and this is it? Like, what's the next step in terms of covering Stephen Curry for you?
Man, well, what I will say, and we might talk about it more in regards to that moment and what it was like watching that, but that was up there with probably top 2, top 3 of my favorite moments of Steph's career. Like there was something. I think it was just because of the dynamic of seeing him, and as a basketball fan, seeing him with LeBron, with Durant, kind of seeing that as the climax of that chapter of just like this generation of basketball. Like that's probably kind of the grand finale. Not, you don't want to say finale, obviously, because LeBron's timeless and Curry's not slowed down at all. But at the same time, like, by the time next Olympics rolls around, that's probably the last go for those 3. And just to see Steph rise on that stage to that level, and seeing, like you said, the feedback of people on Twitter saying like, oh, this is what it feels like to be a Golden State fan, this is what it feels like to cheer for Steph. It was inspiring to see. It was really crazy to see. And I will admit, I jumped off the couch when he made that last 3 against France over Batum. I might have jumped over a couch. So it was a really cool experience to see. And as far as it goes for me, I actually do have a project in the works right now. Should be coming out this week, tentatively. Got to work out a couple more things just with some Olympic footage, clearing a little copyright things, but it should be coming out this week. Going over Steph's journey in the Olympics. It's funny, like, I know that when you invited me to come on, you didn't really know that, but it's something I've been working on for a little bit. It's not nearly as long. It's only about 15 minutes. It's a shorter chapter, but it's just covering this summer, what it meant for Steph's legacy, and a celebration of him kind of getting that last accolade that he didn't have, on his resume. So I'm excited for that to come out. It's going to be a lot of fun to just relive kind of those moments again.
Looking forward to that. Go ahead, sir.
So to answer your question, that's what's next there. Now, will I maybe add that into the end of the documentary and maybe put it back out as like a full thing? Who knows? Steph might get a 5th championship eventually. We might have to add a whole nother 2 or 3 chapters. We're gonna have to see.
Yeah, when your documentary ended, I don't think anyone could have predicted for certain that was just going to be the penultimate of his story, right? There's at least one more to go, and that being the Olympic gold, and then now it's like, who knows what's next? A rather esoteric question that I'm guessing most people won't care about, but I'm very curious myself. How does that how big of an obstacle is the copyright stuff? Like, I know the NBA is a lot more liberal in terms of letting people use their content than most other sports, but at the same time, I don't think you could just use anything. What is it? What's the challenge for you there in terms of making a documentary with all this NBA footage? Like, do you have to clear every single highlight? Are they pretty relaxed with you? Like, how does that process go?
They're fairly relaxed in certain regards. Like you got to be respectful and you got to be careful about like obviously you got to make it an original body of work. So it's I'm not using 2 minutes of straight footage from something else or something like it's
Right.
very like maybe 5-second clips of one video that's it's not like I'm fully repurposing footage and things like that. So you got to be respectful in that regard. The Olympics is a whole nother ballgame though. The Olympics is that when you start seeing companies like ESPN and other stuff like that not posting clips of something, then you know that like it's serious. So I'm having to get creative. And luckily they played the exhibition games. All that stuff is kind of fair game. But the Olympic footage itself is kind of something that I'm working around because I obviously, you want to be respectful and be aware of, people's copyright laws and things like that. So just kind of trying to work around that. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but I think we've still been able to make a really cool story that, still captures the feeling and the emotion of the moment as much as
The
we could.
essence. Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I don't know if it's up for debate, but I feel like a huge reason for the NBA's growth the last few years, especially last 10 years, maybe, I don't know what the time frame is, but is the fact that they're not rigid with copyright. Like you see people left and right posting highlights of games, and you don't see that stuff getting flagged, unlike the Olympics where you're absolutely right. NBC was going crazy with that. Like there was one play where it wasn't a play, but it was like coming out of a timeout. Like Stephen Curry was doing a robot. I don't know if you saw that. He was doing like a Dave Chappelle impersonation coming out of a timeout, or he just suddenly panned into the shot and he's doing like this robot thing. And then it was in the middle. It was like 2 minutes and change left in the gold medal game. It was like this tense moment where the game was far from being cinched. And then here's Steph just having fun doing the robot, but hardly anyone saw it because every time people try to post that clip, there was NBC just flagging it and taking it down. It was crazy, man. Yeah. And I don't understand I don't know what you get out of that to be that rigorous with enforcing copyright, but the NBA has done well in that regard and giving some freedom to content creators. And it makes me wonder, like, are you worried at all as someone who produces content pertaining to the NBA yourself? Like, are you worried at all about this new media rights deal? Because there is some language coming out of the NBA offices indicating that they're going to crack down on stuff. Like, have you heard anything yourself? Have you been affected by that, or is that just a complete myth?
I haven't heard anything personally. I would like to think that the NBA is aware of what you just said because I completely agree that that's why the league has grown to the length that it has.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see. I haven't necessarily heard anything just specifically to me, but it's something I have kind of seen headlines of possibilities. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, people are always going to make their decisions based on what they feel is best for them and the company and things and the association itself. But you just have to hope that maybe they are looking out for the fans, looking out for the creators who have helped grow the game. So that's kind of what I would hope personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Trice, the Olympics, I feel like for the Warriors, I kind of wonder if it was a double-edged sword for them, because on one hand, you have a player that is easily the greatest to ever put on a Warriors uniform. I don't think that's up for debate. Achieving even more glory, getting another gold medal. You know, your head coach was also leading the campaign. But on the other hand, it posed the question of, are the Warriors doing enough? Like, this is a player who clearly still has it. He's still playing at the highest level. And, you know, the question then is raised, are the Warriors surrounding Steph with the talent you need to be a legitimate contender? In my opinion, no. It's a good team. Is the roster better than a year ago? I would agree, yes. But when you look at the overall NBA landscape, especially the Western Conference, I don't know if the Warriors are good enough to make some real noise. And again, it's a subjective take, so I could be wrong on that, but that's just how I feel. What are your feelings on it? I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at the Warriors roster. Like, do you think the Warriors themselves, they struck out on Paul George, they struck out on Lauri Markkanen? Do you feel like they should make another move, like a big move to give Stephen Curry some help? Or, in your opinion, do you think the Warriors are good enough as is? What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know that the answer for me wouldn't be, do I think they're good enough as it is? I don't think they have a choice. I think they kind of have to roll with who they have at this point. The Jazz kind of painted them into a corner. Danny Ainge drives a hard bargain in any trade market. So, I mean, they were going to make them, he was going to make them sell their soul. I'm kind of glad I know a lot of Warriors fans were like, just do it, whatever you got to do, send every pick, send every draft, every young player asset we have, and just bring them home. But I think you would have been a shell of the team that you need to really make a run. I think we've seen in recent years a lot of teams making good runs in the playoffs, and especially just in the last few years. I think the era of like super teams of multiple all-stars is gone. You're seeing teams that are well-rounded, great bench units that come in and are very effective on the game. I think if the Warriors would have gave up what they had to for Markkanen, it would have been tough. I think they would have really been scrambling to bring in the pieces they needed off the bench. It's really going to come down to, for Golden State, it's going to come down to, is this the year that, one, Kerr finally trusts the young guys to, well, he doesn't really have a choice. At this point, it's the young guys have to step up or the team's not going to be successful. I think I'm looking forward to seeing the jump Kuminga makes this next year. I think he's going to really surprise a lot of people with the leap he makes. And a lot of the pressure, unfortunately, because of how much the Warriors have coveted him this offseason, is going to fall on Pods. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, like, fans are going to hold it against him personally, although it shouldn't be that way. They're going to hold it against him. The fact that, the Warriors cared so much to hold on to him that they weren't willing to pull the trigger on a couple of big trades. So I'm looking forward to his growth. I hope it's not too much as an expectation, because obviously Pods had a great rookie season. I think we all enjoyed watching him grow over the course of the year, but he does still have some room to grow. And I hope that the expectation's not too high. It's going to come down to Kuminga. It's going to really come down to Kuminga's leap. And it's going to come down to who can be that third option. I think Steph and Kuminga are going to be 1 and 2 scoring, but who's going to be the third one to step up and kind of be the rest of the scoring, carry the rest of the bulk of the scoring. So we'll see. I do think that, to circle all that back to your first question, I don't know that it looks great on the Warriors, just from the standpoint of I feel like Steph finally had a taste of what it's like to play with just an absolute great, an absolute great roster. You saw how much fun he was having out there, how much fun it was for him to finally get to play with LeBron. I personally, it was so weird to see. It was weird to see, like, after all those finals battles and all these, even last year they had some great battles on ABC, even the regular season. And to see after all this time, the way their dynamic has kind of gone full circle from like bitter rivals to like really good friends is really cool to see. And I loved seeing the way they hooped together this summer. It was really cool. So I think for Steph and LeBron too, like the Lakers aren't innocent here. Like, both of them have to go back to their respective. They both have to go back to their respective teams. I saw a lot of funny like memes and jokes on Twitter about how they had to go back to their respective franchises. And it was. Did you see the one? Did you see the Fast and Furious one where one was Paul Walker and one was Vin Diesel, and they had them driving off his separate directions?
I did see that one.
It was unfortunate. Yeah,
I know exactly.
Yeah. So it's just like, man, you hate to see it, because like they kind of had a nice little buddy cop movie going on over the summer, but now they're back to their respective teams, and who knows what's gonna happen. I do think I saw where ESPN ranked the Warriors in top 3 of like most improved teams. I forget, I'm gonna butcher the actual stat, but it was like top 3. I think I screenshotted it. Let me see if I screenshotted it.
And while you're looking that up, the meme you're referring to, it's like the final Paul Walker scene, the one that they filmed like post-mortem where the two cars split off. I can't remember which Fast and Furious movie that was, but that made me laugh. And then the memes where it shows like Steph and LeBron's going from playing together in the Olympics. They go, now I have to go back and play with like Wiggins and someone else. And then I forgot the two players they attached LeBron to. And there's a hint of reality to that, man, because that's really what is going on. They're going from playing alongside each other and alongside these greats, and now it's like, all right, now I got to get D'Anthony Melton integrated.
All right, so I found the stat here. It was ESPN experts predicted the Warriors will have the third best team turnaround in the NBA this season, behind the Spurs and Grizzlies. So
that's interesting. That is because the odds makers have him at they won 46 last year. The odds makers currently have the over under for win total at 43.5. So they're predicting. So the odds makers are taking him down a notch. But according to you, or not according to you, I'm sorry, according to ESPN, they think they're going to get better. I mean, if the Warriors are better than a year ago, that's like a 50-win team. So interesting.
Well, the Western Conference last year was an absolute just juggernaut, man. I was like, and it gets that way every now and then, where like 43 wins, 44 wins is not good enough. Like, it's tough. And when you got to win 50 games to even get in that upper echelon of the Western Conference, like it's a absolutely brutal conference. I hate the one thing that I personally would like to see is I would just like to see Steph be able to take advantage of these last few years of his career. I think, if I had to put a guess, and I don't want to put a guess, because in my opinion, if Steph wanted to, he could easily, the minute that he did start taking a step back in 2 or 3 years, say, okay, I'm going to go into a Ray Allen off the ball type role and play for another 10 years.
That's
if
true.
He really wants, he's in such good shape. He could become an off-ball player and probably be one of the best off-ball shooters we've ever seen. Moving off his screens, playing like a JJ Redick type role. He could do it until he was 45 if he really wanted. If he really wanted to, but we all know like Steph is not going to want to do that. He's going to want to go out on top, as he should. So while he still has the bandwidth to be the man and still is showing that he's capable of averaging 25 plus, leading the league in 3-pointers made, doing all the things he can do. You'd like to see them put a team around him that gives him a chance. Like I hated to see Kobe's career end the way it did. And I've seen a lot of comparisons between what the Warriors are doing to Steph and what the Lakers did to Kobe, as far as just not giving them the teams they need down the final stretch of their season. And you hate to see that, especially for someone like Kobe, who Steph stayed with them his whole career, literally brought that, unlike Kobe, brought that franchise out of the dirt and made them literally billions and billions of dollars. So it's just like you would like to see, especially with Steph still being the biggest draw in the league. I mean, he's still, every game he plays is still the most watched game. I saw the games that he played in the Olympics this year were the most watched Olympic basketball games. Like he's literally still a box office even at this point. Yep. And you'd like to see them give him a chance. That's all I know. Personally, me, I'm a Steph Curry fan. I like the Warriors because Steph Curry, but I've been a Steph fan for the longest, and I want to see him have the opportunity. So you'd like to hope that they can find a middle ground where you don't have to cripple the future of the franchise to get it, because that's the other piece. But you'd like to see them put a good team around him. Obviously, I think this year's roster is set. I saw a lot of people think that maybe Steph playing with LeBron this summer and playing with such a good team might have given him the idea of like, maybe I do want to finish my career on a really good team. I don't think Steph would personally leave Golden State. I can't see it happening, but crazier things have happened. So who knows?
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought all that up, because Joe Lacob has said in previous years that he does not want the Warriors to repeat what the Lakers went through in those final Kobe years, which was just depressing. It was, I mean, that was brutal, man. And let's hope that does not happen with Steph. No. By the way, I'm going to share, this is a treat for the YouTube viewers. I'm going to share, I'm going to show you folks just this meme that we were talking about, where it shows LeBron and below him is the words are typed out as, "Please don't make me go back to Gabe Vincent and D'Angelo Russell." And then there's Stephen Curry, and below him, this is courtesy of NBA memes _official on Instagram. Steph saying, please don't make me go back to Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga. Although I don't agree with that. I think Draymond and Kuminga are two poor
I was
examples.
gonna say that's a way better duo than what LeBron's dealing with in that meme, for sure.
Exactly. The Lakers part made sense, especially D'Angelo Russell. I guarantee that dude drives LeBron crazy, man. Like he has to. But yeah, that's the type of memes that were out there, which was really funny. And yeah, so let's just hope that this doesn't happen to Stephen Curry. And I'm guessing there's another move coming. All signs indicate that the way this roster is constructed, there's just so many wings, and they can't even add Quentin Post right now because they're so close to the salary cap that they can't even fit him in. There's got to be another move coming.
Who would you say is a move out there that you could possibly see them going after? Because I mean, I've heard obviously Ingram is still someone they floated around, Brandon Ingram, but I don't see him as a good fit. But who are some other moves you could see them maybe making that you've heard or you've thought about?
That's a great question. The Brandon Ingram part, I'm 100% with you. Largely, he wants a shitload of money, and he's not going to get that, not from the Warriors at least. But Ingram played for Steve Kerr last year in that FIBA World Cup or whatever that thing was, the preliminary to the Olympics, and Ingram got phased out of that rotation. I mean, so whether Ingram has no desire to play for Kerr after that, or Kerr has no desire to add Ingram after that, I don't think that's a match. I don't think that's going to happen. Cam Johnson is a name that I think excites me a little bit. He could be available. I don't know what the price would be. Jared Allen was mentioned out there, but he just signed an extension, so he's not going to be available until February if you make a trade for him. Like Kyle Kuzma's out there. The guy I think would be a great addition is Vucevic with the Bulls, simply because I don't think the price would be that high. The Bulls are in rebuild mode. And even though he's a defensive liability, if you incorporate a strong team defense, which is what the Warriors have done, right? It will not be the liability you think it is. He gives you size. He averaged 10.5 rebounds a game last year. He can shoot the three as a big. Yeah. That to me would be ideal because, again, the cost would be minimal. You could probably get him for Kevon Looney and Wiggins, and maybe you throw in a couple second-round picks. I don't know. But and then there's Portland, who has Time Lord, Robert Williams III. That would be a player I think would be a great fit for the Warriors. I know he's injury prone, but Rick Celebrini's proven he can use his magic touch to keep a player healthy for a whole year. Otto Porter Jr. was the best example of that. Is there anyone I've missed that you think would be a possible trade target for the Warriors?
The Vooch thing was very interesting because I know obviously the Bulls are trying to get rid of him and Levine. That'd be a really interesting fit. I hadn't even considered him.
Because I like to, you could have a wish list of dream targets, but I like to apply some pragmatism to all this. And a lot of these players that would be ideal, teams are not making them available, or they're asking for the moon, like Danny Ainge did with Lauri Markkanen. But if the report is true that the Bulls offered Zach LaVine for Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins, and the Warriors said no to that, I think you can counter with a pretty fair price to get Vucevic. Is it crazy to you, by the way, that players like Zach LaVine and to a lesser extent Andrew Wiggins have become so toxic that no one wants them? Like, is that wild to you, or is that totally normal? I think that's crazy.
It is crazy, especially considering Zach is still like an elite scorer in the NBA.
Yes.
I mean, what did you say? I guess his average did go down. He was hurt a bit though. He went down to 19 points a game last season in only 25 games. So I don't know. He was injured, but I mean, he's only a year removed from literally, was that 5 straight 24 points per game seasons in a row. Like, I mean, he's still an elite scorer. I think it's just a liability on defense. And now what happens with some of these teams is other teams know how desperate they are to move some of these guys. So like they're like, we're not going to give you anything that's worth your while because we know how much you're trying to get rid of him.
Totally.
And I don't even think Levine wouldn't have been a good fit in Golden State either.
No.
At
The
this
way,
point, I feel like at this point I feel like at this point with the roster they have, they need to make they kind of almost have to do similar to what the Knicks are doing right now and just make a like role player super team. That's kind of what the direction you have to move. You have to hope that I like some of the moves they made for a bench mob. I mean, Kyle Anderson, I watched him a lot in the playoffs last year, and he's a coach on the floor.
he is.
High IQ player. Like he's gonna fit well in Golden State. I like D'Anthony. I think he's a really good defender. Like that something that the Warriors are always utilizing. And then I think Buddy Hield, if you're gonna replace Klay Thompson with anybody else in the league, as far as a shooter goes, Buddy Hield might be one of only maybe a couple that you would do it for as far as like just elite shooters. So I like that they made that move. They countered their losses really well. Notice we haven't really talked about Klay much. I love Klay to death. I love him for what he did for the Warriors. I love his career, but he wasn't what he was before the last couple seasons. I think we all saw it. So I don't know that he'll be the loss that some people will think he is on the court. Now, obviously in the locker room and just the legacy he left, huge loss. But just on the court specifically, I don't think he's necessarily the loss that maybe some people think. So
100% agree. 100% agree with you.
Yeah. So I think that's why I kind of agree with what the ESPN experts are saying. Maybe I don't know about top 3, but I do think they're going to be better. I think the turnaround is going to be significant. And the question's really just going to be, like I said, who's going to be that third scorer to step up? And then what other moves is Golden State going to make? Like you said, the roster is kind of, that's why everybody thought they were going to make a move all summer. The roster's kind of constructed in a way that makes it look like there should be something else there. So we're kind of all left waiting to see what's next.
Yeah. And then Baby Cakes in the chat writing that Vucevic has dropped off. I mean, look, he's not getting younger. I think he turns 34 next year, but he didn't show a drop off last year, man. The guy averaged nearly 19 and grabbed over 10 boards a game and can still shoot from deep. His shooting percentage is not consistent. Like there's some years where he's lights out and then some years where he hovers around 30, but he still spaces the floor. He still brings the gravity. And I don't know if Miles Turner is available. I think that would be a great pickup for the Warriors, but I don't know if Indiana wants to trade him, and I don't know if the Warriors
were for a while, but then I think after they made such a great run this last season, they've kind of brought him back into the fold. Like for a minute, they were trying to get rid of him, though.
Yeah, they were. That's true.
Or he wanted out, but I think now that they put together a solid season.
Yeah, they did, and I don't know what the Warriors could offer to pry Turner away because he is part of the Pacers now, and Indiana's a team, one of many teams that I think is looking forward to next season in terms of growth. I like what you said about all those new additions. You're right. Buddy Hield, if you're going to replace Klay, who was clearly unhappy last year, right? It was a mutually beneficial decision, him parting ways with the Warriors. You get Buddy Hield at half the cost, if not more. Very similar shooting numbers, very similar threat. I'm totally with you there. D'Anthony Melton is a perfect replacement for Chris Paul because similar player in the sense that, solid defensive point guard, can handle the rock, his shooting maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, but he's not a liability either. And then Kyle Anderson I like that pickup too. The only downside with Kyle Anderson to me, it's not the slow-mo stuff. I know he's got that weird nickname, but it is the fact that he's not a shooter. Like I think he shot 22 or 23% from deep last year. So he doesn't exactly space the floor. So when he's out there, you're going to have to counter that with someone else. You can't have basically two non-shooters out there.
I don't know that you'd be able to have him and Draymond on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, it would make life. But at the same time, maybe who knows? Maybe it'll work out. I don't know. But regardless, it is interesting that ESPN is ranking them up there the way they are. Is saying they're going to improve. I do think the Warriors are improved. My biggest concern is the rest of the NBA, right? Like you look at the Western Conference, about 10, 15 minutes ago, we were talking about incredible regular seasons that led to nothing, right?
Yeah.
I always think back to the Golden State Warriors, the year after the We Believe team. Okay. They won 48 games that next season. Everyone forgets about this, right? The We Believe team made some noise, They were an 8 seed. They upset the number 1 seed Mavericks. They eventually lost in the next round to Utah. The following season, they were better. They won 48 games. I think they improved like 5 games or something like that from the year before. Did not even make the playoffs, which was absurd. And this might be a season like that, man. Like I'm looking at the Western Conference, and there's only 2 teams that are not playoff threats, and maybe even that is a stretch. And I'm looking at Utah and Portland. Everyone else can call themselves a playoff contender. When you look at the Western Conference landscape, who sticks out to you, man? Like who are you liking based on all the offseason moves so far?
Well, not even based on off-season moves, but I think Minnesota's coming. I mean, they're right there. I like the moves the Thunder made, and for a team that already finished with a share of the first seed, or what, did they finish 1 seed? I know they were tied. Did they fit? They were the 1 seed, weren't they, or were they the 2 seed?
OKC was the 1 seed, correct? Yeah, they got.
Yeah,
the top,
I mean, for a team that was the 1 seed already to go out and move Giddey, who was probably, in my opinion, honestly, one of their weak points as far as like in the half court, in transition, great player. But in the half court, like a lot of teams, the way they were guarding him, leaving him open for threes and making him shoot the ball, to replace him with Caruso, essentially. Oh, man. I mean, you basically brought in the second, like at least a top 3 on-ball defender, and you already have one of the other top 3 in Lou Dort.
Yeah.
Is just like the defense. God. The defense on that squad is going to be ridiculous. Alex Caruso has been very underrated in Chicago. There's a reason every team in the NBA wanted him. He's a great player. So I think OKC is going to be insane. 50. I mean, they won 57 games last year. That's ridiculous. Obviously,
and they're
the Nuggets
improve on that. I really think they are, dude. They're a young team. OKC is dangerous, bro. And then they added Hardenstein.
Chet's just now growing into what he's going to become. Like he got lost in the Wemby shuffle, but Chet, he's a good player, man.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then I mean, just going down the line, I mean, the Nuggets, obviously, they're going to stay consistent. I think they kind of realized that they need to do. I haven't kept up with their moves as much as everybody else this offseason, so I don't really know exactly everything they've done. But I think that obviously it was probably a shock to them to go out when they did in the playoffs this year. But yeah, other than that, I think the Timberwolves are going to be tough. I think Anthony Edwards, as much as we saw him make a leap, I think we're about to see him make another leap in this next year. I think especially after playing on Team USA. It's no coincidence that when you're a young guy like that and you get to learn from the KDs and the Stephs and the LeBrons, even he got to learn a lot from Devin Booker, like being around those guys, seeing those habits and what it takes to be great. That's kind of what can elevate those fringe superstar players to like the next level. And I think he's going to make a jump. So the Western Conference they've got some killers. And we haven't even talked about Phoenix, who's got obviously the 3-headed monster who never really showed up last year. That are trying to figure their stuff out. We haven't talked about the Lakers. Like, we don't know, like LeBron. I don't ever count LeBron out. The Lakers, I think, are kind of in a similar boat to Golden State, like we mentioned earlier. They still have some meat on the bone as far as moves they could have made. Like, I think they didn't maximize their roster. But other than that, I mean, I think it's going to be whoever comes out of that playoff is gonna be it's gonna be well worth it.
It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah,
go ahead, sir.
I was gonna say it's gonna be like whoever came out of the East. I mean, the East is tough too, but whoever came out of the East is gonna be sitting there like waiting, and whoever came out of the West is gonna be like battle tested. Like they will have fought the whole way.
Wholeheartedly agree with you, brother. And when you look at the West, again, OKC, we talked about, they won 57 last year. They're going to get better. They're still a young team who added Hardenstein and Alex Caruso. Denver had a disastrous offseason. With that said, you still have Jokic. You still have Aaron Gordon. Michael Porter Jr., side note, is a stealthy target in terms of a trade that I think the Warriors should look at. I mentioned that once like a month ago on the program. I think the Nuggets will try and move him. Sorry, go ahead.
I just think that'd be nice. That's a good.
And the Warriors could use a player like him, someone who has his size and spaces the floor. We don't know if the Clippers are going to, how much worse they're going to be. They're probably going to be worse, but even though they lost Paul George, they also added like Derek Jones. They brought Nicholas Batum back. You brought up Phoenix. Like, dude, the Phoenix, I had zero faith in the Phoenix Suns getting better next year until the Olympics. And then we saw Devin Booker take another leap when I didn't think
I
he could
loved
get
the
any.
way I
Yes,
loved the way he played.
loved it. And Kevin Durant, is Kevin Durant, obviously, right? I mean, he's one of the greatest ever. So and those two basically teamed up together in the Olympics. There were photos of them after the Olympics going on boat rides in the Mediterranean together. So their chemistry just got better. They added Tyus Jones. I don't know how the hell they got Tyus Jones for damn near the veteran minimum, but they did, and he's an outstanding player. So Phoenix suddenly scares me now a lot more than they did. The Warriors still have not shown they can beat the Lakers. That to me is when I look at the Warriors front office moves, that is what peeves me more than anything else. Because since 2020, the Lakers have had the Warriors number. The Warriors didn't have to face them in 2022. They probably would have beaten them, but they didn't have to face them. So who knows? But you look at the Lakers front court, man. Rui Hachimura, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, who has the physique of a center, depending on what team you're looking at. They routinely have Stephen Curry guarding Austin Reeves, who has a good 3 to 4 inches in height on him, in addition to a big body. You look at they still have Cam Reddish, who is big. Jared Vanderbilt is big. Even the rookie they drafted, Dalton Connect, he's a big dude who can shoot the ball lights out. Christian Wood is big. And I feel like I'm missing one other person. The point is, so they're a daunting obstacle. The Pelicans, who got better. They made that DeJounte Murray trade. So you got to deal with like Zion Williamson and that front court and that whole team, although they might be a little smaller this year. The Kings got better. The Rockets won 41 games last year. They're just going to get better, and they might make a move to get like a Jimmy Butler type because they got the assets to do so. Who knows what the Spurs are going to do with Wemby? Wemby could easily be in year 2 like a first-team All-NBA type center. We could see that growth, and it shouldn't surprise anyone. The Memphis Grizzlies added getting John Morant back with a team that has Jaren Jackson. Brandon Clark is going to come back. The West is so ridiculously stacked that I am praying that the Warriors do something. I like this team, but when you look at the rest of the Western Conference, man, it's just the Warriors are primed to get their asses kicked, man, mostly because of size issues. And it's such a shame that the Lowry thing didn't work out. So I'm very curious to see what happens next.
Well, it's been the age old thing. Even back to 2022, it was an issue, and they still somehow pulled off that championship. Like, they're just undersized all the time. They're allergic to 7-footers. They're allergic to big men.
2022, Trice, sorry to interrupt you, but 2022 was a weird one. Like, when you look at the postseason run, like they didn't have like Jokic in the first round had no one around him to help except for Aaron Gordon. They had injury issues. Michael Porter Jr. was injured. Jamal Murray was injured. The Mavericks had no real size for them to deal with. The Grizzlies, that was to me was their biggest challenge, and it was impressive that they overcame that because the Grizzlies did bring size to the table. But you look at Dallas, you look at Boston. I don't know. It's just different.
The stars aligned for them that year. I've said it many times. Like that run. And I people say whatever, like you can call it luck, whatever. You got to be lucky to win a championship in the NBA.
Period.
And the stars aligned, and I will forever be thankful they got that ring. But this season, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to even come out the West. You're going to need a little bit of luck in your favor if you're going to if you're Golden State, you want to make a run. I just hope that someone can step up to the point that Steph isn't like Kobe on those Lakers teams at the end of his career, where he has to do so much that it wears on his body. I don't want to see him have to do everything. Someone's got to help him, especially in this landscape. We're talking about teams that we're not just talking about offensive killers. We're talking about Golden OKC. OKC is a defensive monster to deal with. All over the place, linked inside, on ball defenders. Like, one man cannot beat that team. Period.
You're right. You're
and
right.
I mean, same thing with when you look at, you even mentioned San Antonio. Not to say that they're necessarily competition for the Warriors right now, but I like Chris Paul being added to that team. I think that I think he is going to elevate Wemby to a level that people just don't really understand. Not even if it's not on court production, just off the court, showing him the spots. Like, he's going to give him such a blueprint. It's going to be cool to see. I'm a fan of Wemby. I like it. I like watching things. I like watching players that make me see that show me things that I've never seen before. That's why I
Hell
like
yeah.
Steph. That's why I like watching Steph Curry. That's why I like watching Wembanyama. If I can tune into a game and I can see something that I've never seen before, I'm on. I'm watching. I'm there to see it.
Yep.
But so like you said, and you just you might have took some juice out of my or some
Sorry,
wind out
man.
of my some wind out of my sails for the season, talking about all these teams of the Western Conference, because it is a tough road.
It is,
So
dude.
it's going to be tough for the Warriors, but what I will say is I'm glad they've made the moves to improve. And not every team got better this offseason. Like you said, Denver didn't have a great offseason. I don't know that Dallas had a super great offseason. I can't, I haven't heard much out of them at
That's
the
fair.
very
They got
least.
Clay, but I actually don't think that's going to help him much, man. But that's me. I mean, I can be
Yeah,
honest.
I don't know. I don't know how he fits in there either, and that's a whole other conversation.
Yep,
But
exactly.
it's we could go on a whole nother tangent on that. But I don't know. I think it's going to come down to, one, if they make another move, what do they do? But at the same time, not even thinking about externally what they can do internally with the roster they have, who are going to be the guys to step up to fill the gaps that have been left. And then, I think a big question for me is guys like Moses Moody. Is he going to make? I remember us having the same conversation last year before the season
Yep.
started, when you
Yep.
brought me on the podcast, and I said, is Moses Moody going to be a factor this season? And I feel like we just hit the reset button, and I feel like last season didn't, as far as Moody goes, last season didn't even happen. Like, nothing has changed. Like, he's still in the same boat that he's been in. I would love to see Moody get to make that leap and have some production off the bench. Like, I would love to see some of the pods again. Like we said, it's gonna have to make a big jump off the bench. Well, I don't know. Pods might start, but who do you think? Well, that's a good question. Who do you think is a starting five, and then who do you think will be like the main rotation guys off the bench right now?
Well, I'm going to answer that in two ways. One is I'm going to tell you what I think will happen, and then what I wish would happen. I do agree with you that well, first of all, the Moses Moody thing, you're absolutely right.
He sucks.
That's it's he that's how he feels, and I don't blame him. I really wish he got time. I would honestly start Moody. Like, if you're looking at who should be the starting shooting guard, like, to me, it should be Moses Moody, because he's not a liability defensively. He spaces the floor. He's a good shooter. He's a playmaker. But I do think Podziemski will get the other starting position. Yeah, I think it's going to be Steph, Pods, Kuminga, Draymond, Trace Jackson Davis. That'll be your five. I like
TJD starting. I like TJD starting a lot.
But I actually, if your shooting guard, to me, should be Moody or Wiggins. Wiggins is a natural 2, and he's been playing out of position almost his entire time with the Warriors. It paid off in 2022. I mentioned this on yesterday's show, Trice, and I'll mention it again, man. I saw highlights of that 2022 postseason the other day, and I forgot how athletic, how much of a beast Wiggins was, man.
Right.
I don't know. I still don't know what happened to that guy. Again, I have one source who told me, and if anyone ever wants to know, I'll DM me. I'll DM you back what I heard, and it's a trusted source. And but regardless, man, it sucks that he just vanished. That he's no longer the guy he was. And but I would still, because defensively he can still produce. He can still shoot the 3. So I would go with Wiggins or Moody at the 2 and keep the other 4 the way it's likely going to be. What about you, man? What would be your ideal starting 5 for the Warriors?
I hadn't really thought about Moody starting. I just looked at some of his stats. He did make a bit of a jump, but I can't tell if it's just because he played more minutes. I can't it's hard to tell. Like, sometimes you just play more minutes, so you naturally have better stats. Like, he almost doubled his points per game, doubled his steals per game, doubled his rebounds. Yeah, I mean, he did what he should do, and he played double the minutes, so his production stayed consistent. I would like to see Moody start. I think he gives you a consistent 3 and D2, but I think Pods will start. I think Kerr likes Pods a lot, and he'll bring him in as the starting 2. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I like TJD. I like TJD at the 5. I like Draymond at the 4. That 3 spot is what's interesting. I guess Kuminga, and then you bring Wiggins in off the bench. I don't mind Wiggins starting at the 2 though.
I've been asking for that for 2 years, man. It's where he would thrive if you're going to still play him. As a 4, dude, like that experiment needs to die. Like I don't. It drives me crazy every time I see that. But
yeah. I wouldn't mind Wiggins playing that 2 spot or Moody playing the 2 spot and letting Pods run the bench unit. Like I think if you let Pods run the bench unit with Buddy Hield, Kyle Anderson, Melton or Gary Payton's still on the team, right?
He's still on the team too. That's what I'm saying. There's a logjam, dude. There's a lot of guards. There's also
Gary's going to play over Melton probably. I assume. I don't know. Melton played a lot of minutes last year though. Melton was playing. I didn't realize how many minutes a game Melton was playing last season.
Yep.
In Philly. Yeah, he was playing.
Right. He missed over half a year.
He was playing 27. He was playing 27 minutes a game when he was playing.
And those players you just named, I think you forgot to mention Buddy Hield. That's another player. They got so many good. Dude, I don't understand how this is going to work. This has been my whole point for this roster is I don't get it.
You're going to have some solid scoring off the bench though. If you let Pods, because even if Pods starts, he'll still run with that second unit. I feel like you'll have some with Buddy, Kyle Anderson to kind of help facilitate, be a Draymond Green off the bench. It's not terrible. I don't know who your 5 is off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Looney. I guess Looney if you don't trade him.
Yeah, he could be your backup. Yeah, but again, you're going to have a lot of people not getting minutes at all, and it's just I did a breakdown of this. Maybe I'll do another one just to rehash. But again, as you know, there's only 5 positions, and to me, that's where 1 through 5 makes sense, right? When you're is adding up who's playing what, how many minutes,
right?
And each 1 through 5 gets 48, and those 48 disappear fast, dude. I just don't know where a lot of these guys are going to be fitting in.
It makes no damn sense.
Makes no sense. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. Trice, I asked you before you came on the show, if you're cool moving on. If you want to stay on the topic, we can. I asked you, going back to Stephen Curry, because I've heard a few people talking about this, where he ranks all time individually, right? And you and I are going to give our top 10 list of the greatest players to ever play the sport of basketball, more specifically the NBA. Are you ready for your top 10? I wish I had a drum roll. I don't have a drum roll.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to
go first? I haven't even written mine down. I think I have mine off memory. I hope. Yeah,
I wrote it down because I feel like there's so much fluidity for me, and that might change daily.
Okay.
But I'll give you what I got for today. And I rank the greatest players. I try not to just go off of stats and accolades. I try to go off of impact. I try to go off of what they meant to the game. So that's kind of why some of these might be a little different than some people. Maybe not.
Picture here. Yeah, the whole
So at 10 I have Tim Duncan. I think Tim Duncan's impact as a player goes without saying. And
is this so he's number 10? Are you going 10 to 1? Okay.
I'm going 10 to 1. I'm going 10 to 1. So I got 10. I got Tim Duncan. Like I said, I think you can't deny his impact on the game as far as just on the floor, what he did with the Spurs. Nine, I have Bill Russell, which is a little lower than a lot of people have him. I do take into account just a different time. Like it was just a different time. That's why Wilt's not in my top 10. And he is for a lot of people. But it's just, I feel like it's just a different era, and this is the most skilled time basketball's ever been right now, and so you have to take that into account. So I still have him at 9 just for the history, what he means to the history of the game. Obviously 11 championships speaks for itself, and but I have him at 9. I have Steph at 8. I know a lot of people have Steph right outside their top 10s. I know some people have him at 10, 9.
That's blasphemy. That is blasphemy.
I have him at 8, and it's a very loose 8. It could move up very easily. It almost moved up because he won a gold medal. And I try not to be too biased. But if he ever wins a 5th ring, and I'll say this, if he ever wins a 5th ring, he jumps into the top 5 for me easily.
Well, just to add to that, if he wins a 5th ring, I think he's on the Mount Rushmore. He's in the top 4. I think he surpasses Magic as the greatest point guard ever. I know a lot of people say that he's the greatest now, but to me, championships matter. I think it's grossly important, and it sounds like you feel the same way. But sorry to keep interrupting you, man. Go ahead.
No, you're not. It's tough, and this is a dialogue. It's tough because I am one of the people who, and as I go through this list, I was looking at it, I was like, well, my list doesn't reflect how I feel about the point guard position, but I do feel like Steph is right there. If Magic's here, Steph is right here. He's right
Yes.
underneath them.
Yes.
I think it is a debate only because of when you take into account not just accolades, but the impact that Steph has had on the game. Now, obviously, Magic helped bring the league out of the absolute dirt, so you have to take that into account too. Like Magic and Larry literally saved the NBA from probably going bankrupt. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I just feel like Steph's impact in the game, him being the best at what he does as far as his skill in the game, him being the best ever, accounts for something to me. So that I have him at 8, and like I said, he could move up. At
Mhm.
7, I have Shaq. Not just off of accolades, but off of pure dominance. You're talking about a player who it just couldn't be stopped as far as like at the height of his career. He was a dominant force. So I have Shaq at 7, obviously, with the championships to back it up. 6, I have Larry Bird. 5, I have Magic, and 4, I have Kobe. So I say all those at the same time because that 7 to 4 is very interchangeable for me. Like that's kind of where I always get kind of, I don't know, maybe I should put him over him, whatever. Obviously Larry and Magic, hand in hand, 2 of the best ever. What they did for the game is undeniable. And then Kobe himself, I know a lot of people have him at 3 now. Unfortunately, I think a lot of that has to do with just obviously like the memory of him and him passing away and just the way his legend has grown. Um, I love Kobe. I love his career. I love what he did for the game. I love how he inspired the next generation of basketball players. As I take into account, a lot of the best young players today are here because of Kobe and what he inspired them to do. So I have him at 4, but he's right on 3. I could see him moving in 3. I have Kareem at 3. To me, being dominant for 20 years means something. To be the best at what you do for 20 years, and that's why obviously LeBron is high where he is at 2 on my list because I mean, and you know, so I've got Kareem 3, LeBron 2, Jordan 1.
Good list.
But
It's a good
yeah,
list.
that's my list. I've got for the same reason I think Kareem's 3. I've got LeBron at 2 and possibly LeBron at 1 by the time he's all done. I've been a Jordan, like I stand firm on my take that Jordan's the best ever for a long time.
Yep. Same. Same.
The longer LeBron plays and the longer he plays at the level that he's playing, it's just getting harder and harder for me not to say like all encompassing. He's not catching up to that one spot. I just I found myself doing that at the Olympics this year because that's kind of the one time that you can watch some of these players and you're cheering for them because they're on your team, and I'm watching LeBron and I'm seeing the way that he's still, even at his age, was able to put the best players in the world on his back. It means something to me to see
Mhm.
that. And so, I've got him at 2 for now, the longevity and to it's just crazy. It's some of the projects I've been working on recently, I've been looking at like old footage because it's from like early 2000 stuff. And to see LeBron still playing against those guys then and still being one of the best in the world now is ridiculous. And then
Yeah.
obviously
I feel
Jordan
like
won.
if the debate was longevity, LeBron easily wins, right? But that's
Right.
part of it. And
Yeah.
the losses to me, unless he wins 6, he's got to win 2
Yeah.
more in my book to
I
be
see
in
what you're
a
saying.
very serious discussion. But
Yeah.
Jordan never lost at the clip
Yeah.
LeBron did, and
Yeah.
whether or
That's
not
true.
there's a lot of factors that go into that, it's the results matter,
Yeah.
and but
Well,
that's for me.
yeah.
That's me.
And if we're not just talking about obviously like longevity, like you said, is only part of it. If we're talking about the reason Jordan's number 1 for me, I've got a few reasons. The number 1 reason is I look at it as the players. How good were you at your peak? When you were at your best, how good were you? Jordan was the best ever.
Easy.
At his peak, he was the best in the world, and no one was close, and no one would have denied it. So, I think there was moments where people, would have questioned if Kobe was over LeBron, best in the world, even deep into LeBron's career. Like by the time Jordan really got established, there was nobody questioning if he was the best in the world. And like you said, the success. I mean, when you talk about the success, the accolades themselves and the clip that you won at, the win percentage, it's hard to top. So I got Jordan number 1. So that's my top 10.
That's a great list. And just to piggyback, for anyone out there who is too young to watch Jordan, what we just saw with Stephen Curry in the Olympics, right? And I'm talking more specifically about those last 2 games where if Steph doesn't hit all those shots, they don't beat Serbia, which would have been crazy, right? I mean,
would have been insane.
It would have been insane. I mean, that would have been some earth-shaking after effects in terms of legacies and so forth.
Yeah.
But for Steph to be the hero and to carry them in that game, and then again in the championship game, the gold medal game, that last shot right over 2 guys, we all knew it was going in, right? Which was, to me, the craziest part. You knew that was going in. That was Jordan for you for his entire career, at least once he started winning championships. There was no doubt in your mind, regardless of how it would happen, that Jordan was going to win. It was so certain, and that certainty to me correlated with his greatness. And yeah, dude, he just, no one else could come close to his level. And this is Damian adding a terrific chat saying if Stephen Curry gets 5 chips, meaning he has 1 more than LeBron, how could you call LeBron the GOAT when another player in his era has more titles than him?
Yeah. You can make that same argument. You can make that same argument with them being tied.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. You can say that as well. You're absolutely right. And Damian, thank you for the $2 donation there. Damian is just a fantastic individual. Real fast, my list for if anyone cares.
I'm excited.
I'll go through this fast. So Shaquille, before Stephen Curry won his 4th championship in 2022, I had Shaquille O'Neal in my top 10. Steph winning that 4th title bumped Shaq out. So my top 10, and this is the order I have it going in. Number 10 is Larry Bird. And I feel like that's even too low for him, but it's just that's how much talent is in this list. Number 9 is the one exception to the rule I have about championships, and that's Wilt Chamberlain. I have him in there for 2 reasons. One is without Bill Russell, it wouldn't be a debate. Bill Russell was that good that he prevented Wilt from winning more titles. And to hear Rick Barry talk about Wilt and to hear these other old timers talk about just how dominant Wilt was, like they emphatically say time and time and again that the era did not matter. Like if Wilt Chamberlain was playing today, he would dominate the way he did back then. And so I have to include him. And again, this is all subjective. So
and not to interrupt you really quick, not to interrupt you, but
please.
When I interviewed Rick Barry for the Steph documentary, one of my favorite things that happened, and I hate it so much that I had stopped the recording, that I don't have it on video, was Rick Barry sat with me for probably 30 to 45 minutes after and just told stories about about playing with Wilt, about playing with Bill Russell, and stories that I'll never forget, just because like it was so cool that he was telling me this. It was like listening to your grandfather talk about being in the war or something. Like he was like just telling these stories, and he was talking about like, anyways, he talked about Wilt and just how dominant of a physical presence he was, and how like I think he said the first time he went to box him out, he like caught him with a forearm to his chest. Wilt caught Rick with a forearm to the chest, and it knocked the wind out of him. It was just a normal box out. And that's when he knew like Wilt was nothing to mess with. So you saying that reminded me of that.
Yeah, and it's crazy, man. Like Rick Barry in his second year faced off against Wilt's 76ers in the NBA Finals, and that was Wilt's first championship. Yeah, it's crazy, man. This game goes so much further back than just what the modern era, which we equate with 80 and the emergence of Magic and Bird and all that. So I have Wilt number 9. Stephen Curry is number 8, and I don't see anyone in the game currently moving him down the list. I think he's very safe there. Number 7 is Tim Duncan. Number 6 is Kobe Bryant. Number 5 is Bill Russell, who I know played in an era where there were way less teams, but the 11 championships, I just can't ignore that.
You can't, no debate there.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said no debate there. Yeah,
and again, this is all our opinions. Number 4, and these next two players dropped the notch. And this goes to show I'm not a LeBron James hater. I try to be pragmatic in everything I say. Number 4 is Magic Johnson. Number 3 is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. LeBron James, the last time I publicly mentioned this list was 4. And I'm respecting the launch. How could you not respect what he's doing, dude?
Yeah.
It's incredible. And I have him now at number 2.
Yeah.
The Olympics didn't hurt any of that. I mean, he did win MVP for a good reason. And then Michael Jordan's my number 1. Is that a crazy list? Is that
no?
What do you think?
That's a good list. I think it's a good list. I think one thing but you have to remember, and that's what I try to say anytime I'm having like a debate like this with all-time greats, is these are quite literally 1 through probably 20 the greatest players to ever touch basketball. Like, you can't go wrong. Like, there's probably a good 13, 14 you could fit in that top 10 and not be wrong. Like, these are no, and everybody's got their opinion for different reasons. Everybody's got their list for different reasons. They value different things. Like, it's all subjective. And I think that it's just cool to hear what people value in the game. Like, some people value championships. Some people value cultural impact. Some people value accolades. Some people value stats. Like, everybody's got their own thing, and it's just cool to hear everybody's different perspectives on it, because that's what makes the game so great. Like, everybody's got different, like, there's so many all-time greats that people value at different levels, and it's just cool to hear what they think about them. So
absolutely,
you'll never hear me hate on anybody's top 10 list unless you've got someone who definitely doesn't belong in there. I'm like, all right, you might be missing something. Like, if KD was in your top 10 or something.
For sure. And one more time, in case you folks are unfamiliar, the documentary is called Wardell Stephen Curry. It's available on YouTube. Congratulations on the success with that. The fact that you've got over 1 million views and counting on this thing is incredible. And one more time, promote away. You have a new documentary coming. One more time, as we wrap up the show, promote everything you have going on. I know people can follow you on Instagram at Trice High, I believe. Promote away, sir. I know you got another documentary coming, but just let everyone know what's going on in your life, brother.
Yeah. Like I said, YouTube is at Trice Official. You can search my name up, Trice. Usually it pops right up, Trice. It is my pleasure to bring to what, in my opinion, I know I'm a little biased because I'm the one creating it and I've got a great team that kind of works with me now, but we make some great basketball content. I'm talking about high quality, some of the best you'll find on YouTube. I 100% believe it. If you're a fan of sports documentaries, if you're a fan of basketball content, you will not be steered wrong, especially if you're a Golden State Warriors fan. I've got hours of Steph Curry content for you to enjoy. I currently have, like I said earlier, I have a Steph Curry short film coming out this week on the Olympic run this past off season. It's just going to be titled Stephen Curry and the Journey to Gold.
Nice.
It's a short film. Should be coming out, like I said, within the next couple of days, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan. We also have a really cool documentary being worked on right now about Rafer Skip to Malu Alston, the former street ball player turned NBA guy. Really fun story. If you're a fan of basketball, if you're a fan of that late 90s, early 2000s hoops, like, it's a really fun documentary. He's got a really cool story. So I'm excited to have that one come out soon. Other than that, a lot of cool stuff kind of in the works that we're kind of working on behind the scenes right now for the rest of the year. You can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Trice High, TR1CE_H1GH. That's the handle, but you can usually search my name, Trice High, TRICEHIGH. You can find me on all socials. That easy. Like, there's not many people with my name, so I'm pretty easy to find. But if you follow me, feel free to reach out. Say you heard me on the Golden Days podcast. I'd love to hear that. And I'm happy to talk hoops and anything else with y'all. It's always a good time.
And you're working for the Players TV. Is that what it's called, right? You're doing some work with the former pros there, and dude, you're killing it. Congratulations, brother.
Yeah, I'll plug Players TV real quick. So Players TV is a players-owned media network. Our main owners are Kyrie Irving, Chris Paul, Damian Lillard. Like, they're all player invested. Travis Kelce, Ken Griffey Jr. Like, we got a lot of great former athletes that are investors in our company, and we're a players-owned media network, man. We're here to provide a platform for players to express themselves in the media space. I just got back from Las Vegas a few weeks ago, filming a cooking show with Alicia Clark. Like, we got sneaker show with PJ Tucker that we just came out with. Lots of fun stuff. A lot of your athletes come to us with ideas that they want to promote, shows they want to create that the normal big sports networks aren't interested in, and we help make their dreams a reality. So definitely tap in. We got some cool stuff coming throughout the year. So that's at Players TV.
Love it, brother. And Trice, it's always an absolute pleasure. Let's get you back on soon. Congratulations again on Wardell Stephen Curry. That documentary is available on YouTube. Go check it out. It's a great hour. What is it, like an hour 45? I think.
Like an hour 40. Yeah, like an hour. No, we're way off. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes.
There you go. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes of Steph, and
yeah,
you captured the essence of his career.
Yeah, it's too. If you're a Stephen Curry fan, if you're a Warriors fan, if you're a fan of sports at all, there's something for you in that documentary. It's a beautiful story, whether you know it or not, of someone who defied the odds and became one of the best ever, and that's not a debate. So really cool. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you can check it out and be on the lookout for the Team USA doc coming out this week, where we celebrate Steph once again proving why he's one of the best to ever do it.
It's incredible, man. And we'll be back tomorrow. NBA Coast to Coast had a break for a couple of weeks, but Casey Stern is back. It's going to be Wednesdays at 1 p.m. We're talking NBA. So join us there. Trice, thank you, brother. This was a pleasure. And thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.